Daniel Harper thought the blind date was just another polite failure waiting to happen. A quiet cafe, a warm smile, conversation that felt too easy for two people carrying broken pasts. Then, Emily looked at him, took a deep breath, and said 4 words that froze the moment completely. "I have a child." Time didn't stop because Daniel hated kids. He didn't. He loved his daughter more than anything in the world. It stopped because he wasn't sure he still had the courage to choose someone who could hurt him again. Someone who came with complications he understood too well. Someone who could leave, right there at Willow Street Cafe, with cold coffee and the weight of 18 months of loneliness pressing down. Daniel had to decide walk away like everyone else had walked away from her, or stay. The house was always quieter after Sophie fell asleep. Daniel Harper stood in his daughter's doorway, watching her breathe beneath the butterfly blanket. 7 years old enough to ask questions he couldn't answer, young enough to believe he had all the answers anyway. The living room felt too big for one person. Daniel dropped onto the couch and checked his phone. 3 messages from Marcus. "Still thinking about tomorrow? Come on, man. Just coffee. 1 hour. You can't hide forever." Daniel typed, "I'm not hiding. I'm being realistic. Realistic is just another word for scared. Emily's nice, normal job, no drama, just meet her." Marcus had been pushing this blind date for 2 weeks. Daniel hadn't been on a date since the divorce. 18 months of single parenting and pretending he was fine with how small his world had become. He wasn't fine, but he wasn't sure he was ready to not be fine in front of a stranger. 1 hour, that's it. Marcus sent back a thumbs up and an address. Willow Street Cafe, tomorrow at 7. Daniel looked around the living room. Sophie's art supplies scattered everywhere. A half-finished puzzle on the floor. The comfortable chaos of raising a child alone. He thought about his ex-wife briefly. She'd left when Sophie was 5. No fight, no affair. Just couldn't do it anymore. Motherhood, marriage, showing up every day. Daniel had been angry for months, then sad, then tired. Now he was just here. He picked up one of Sophie's drawings. A crayon family portrait. 2 stick figures. One tall, one small. No third person. She never asked about her mother anymore. Daniel wasn't sure if that was better or worse. Willow Street Cafe sat on a corner with wide windows and warm lighting. Daniel arrived 5 minutes early, too eager. He ordered black coffee and claimed a table where he could watch the door. The cafe hummed with quiet conversations. A couple shared a pastry. An older man read a newspaper. Daniel checked his phone. 3 minutes to 7. The door opened. A woman stepped inside, scanning the room with careful anxiety. Shorter than expected. Dark hair pulled back. Simple dress. Understated, but somehow present. Their eyes met. She smiled and walked over. "Daniel?" "Emily." He stood too quickly, bumped the table. "Sorry. Hi." "Yes." She laughed. "That's me. And you're definitely Daniel. So we're off to a great start." They sat. She ordered tea. The first minute passed in weather and traffic, safe territory. Then Emily asked what he did for work. When he said graphic designer working from home, she didn't just nod. She asked what projects he liked best, whether he missed the office, if he got lonely working alone. Real questions. Daniel gave real answers. "Sometimes," he admitted. "The alone part. But I've got a good routine. Flexibility for other things." "Other things?" He hesitated. Marcus said ease into the single dad thing. Don't lead with it, don't hide it. Just find the right moment. This wasn't it. Just life stuff. Errands, you know. Emily didn't push. She told him about teaching 3rd grade. The age where kids still thought teachers knew everything but were starting to ask questions that proved otherwise. "Last week a student asked why we have eyebrows. I had no idea. So we researched eyebrow evolution instead of doing math." Daniel smiled. "Sounds like good teaching. Sounds like winging it. But that's most of teaching. Showing up and hoping you're doing more good than harm. weight beneath the lightness. Daniel recognized it because he carried it too. They talked without pause. Old movies. Cooking he never had time for. Morning runs she did, evening runs he used to do. The conversation flowed easily. He watched how Emily tilted her head when listening, how she paused before answering, how her smile reached her eyes. He hadn't felt this comfortable in years. That scared him. The cafe emptied around them without either noticing. The couple left. The newspaper man gone. Emily glanced at her phone, frowned, put it face down. Sorry. Bad habit. I do it too. Daniel paused. Everything okay? Yeah. Just my babysitter confirming tomorrow's schedule. The word hung between them. Babysitter. Daniel's coffee had gone cold. Emily shifted to asking about restaurants. Daniel let her, though his mind circled that word. Babysitter meant child. Child meant complication. You got quiet, Emily said softly. Did I? Sorry. Just thinking. About? About how he'd imagined any future relationship involving just him and Sophie. About how another child doubled the risk of failure. About catastrophizing over coffee. Nothing important, he lied. Emily studied him. Then nodded and asked about the art museum. Safe territory again. They discussed local spots. Emily had lived here 3 years, but still felt like a tourist. Daniel had been here his whole life and rarely left his neighborhood. That's the thing about routines, Emily said. They make you feel safe, but they also make you small. Is that bad? I don't know. She traced her cup rim. Sometimes I think we make ourselves small to avoid getting hurt. Sometimes I think that's just being smart. Which is it for you? Probably both. That weight again. Daniel wanted to ask what had made someone like Emily talk about making herself small, but he carried his own weight. Knew better than to ask for scars before showing his. I think routines are underrated, he said. There's comfort in knowing what comes next, until the routine stops being enough. The moment stretched, heavy with things unsaid. Emily's phone buzzed. Something in her expression shifted. I should probably head out soon. Early morning. Daniel nodded. Yeah, of course. Neither moved. The barista wiped counters. Music shifted slower. Streetlights flickered outside. Emily took a breath, like diving underwater. Daniel, I need to tell you something. His stomach dropped. Okay. Emily met his eyes. Held them. I have a child. Time didn't stop, but it slowed in that strange way it does when your brain processes too much at once. Daniel heard the words clearly. Understood them. Had suspected them after the babysitter comment, but hearing her say it out loud was different. I have a child wasn't just information. It was a test. A confession. A wall being lowered to see if he'd run. Emily watched him with the careful stillness of someone who'd learned to read disappointment in real time. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Okay, he said. Wrong thing to say. He knew it immediately. Too neutral, too flat, like confirming a fact instead of responding to something that clearly mattered. Emily's expression didn't change, but something in her posture did, a slight pulling back. The beginning of retreat. His name is Lucas, she continued, voice steady despite the shift. He's 5. Smart, funny, exhausting in the best way. I know that's not what most people want to hear on a first date, but I learned a long time ago that honesty up front saves pain later. Daniel's mind raced, but his mouth lagged behind. He didn't hate kids. He loved Sophie more than life itself. That wasn't the problem. The problem was Emily having a child meant baggage. Complicated schedules. Ex-partners. The risk of falling for someone only to have it collapse because blending families was hard and messy. You're thinking very loudly, Emily said. Sorry. Daniel forced focus. Processing whether to finish your coffee and leave politely, or finish your coffee and leave honestly. No bitterness in her voice, just tired familiarity. She'd been here before, many times. How many times have you had this conversation? Daniel asked quietly. Emily looked down at her tea. enough to know how it usually ends. And how does it usually end? With the guy saying he's not ready for that kind of responsibility, or that he needs to focus on his own life, or that it's nothing personal, but he's just not in a place where she stopped, smiled without humor. You've probably used some version of that line yourself. Daniel hadn't, but only because he hadn't dated anyone since becoming a single parent. He'd been too afraid, too tired, too convinced that nobody would want him with all his complications. "What about Lucas's dad?" he asked, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry. That's none of my business. It's a fair question." Emily wrapped her hands around her cup again. A comfort gesture. He left when Lucas was 2. Said he wasn't cut out for fatherhood. Last I heard, he was living 2 states away with a new girlfriend and no forwarding address. "That's common?" Emily finished. "Yeah. Turns out walking away is easier than staying." Who knew? The bitterness crept in on that last sentence, sharp and quick before she pulled it back. Daniel's chest tightened. He thought about Sophie, about the weight of being the only parent who stayed, about the fear that he wasn't enough, would never be enough, no matter how hard he tried. He thought about his ex-wife's last words before she left. "I just can't do this anymore." Simple, final, devastating. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quietly. "That he did that to you, to Lucas." Emily looked up, and for the first time since she'd said the words "I have a child," she looked surprised. "Thank you," she said. The cafe had gone quiet around them. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. Emily set her cup down with careful precision. "I should go," she said. "I know this is a lot to drop on someone, and I don't expect—" "Wait." The word came out more forcefully than Daniel intended. Emily froze, half standing. "Just wait," Daniel repeated, softer. "Don't go yet." "Daniel, I'm not leaving." He said it like he was trying to convince himself as much as her. I need a second." Emily sat back down slowly, watching him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Daniel pressed his palms flat against the table. Steady, grounding. "I have a daughter," he said. Emily blinked. "What?" "Sophie. She's 7, and her mother left us 18 months ago." The silence that followed was different from before, heavier, fuller. Emily's mouth opened, closed. You have a daughter." "Yeah, and you didn't." She stopped, started again. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Same reason you waited," Daniel said. "Because it changes things. Because people run. Because it's easier to pretend you're just a normal person on a normal date than to admit you come with complications." Emily was staring at him like he'd just revealed he could speak another language. "So when I said I have a child," she said slowly, "you weren't thinking about whether you could handle it. You were thinking about whether you could handle mine." The laugh that escaped Emily was half shock, half relief. "We're both idiots," she said. "Completely," Daniel agreed. They sat there, 2 single parents who'd spent an hour dancing around the most important part of their lives, and for the first time all evening, Daniel felt like he could breathe. "Tell me about her," Emily said. "Sophie." So he did. Daniel talked about Sophie the way parents talk about their children when they're given permission to really talk, not the polished, public version, but the real one. He told Emily about Sophie's obsession with dinosaurs that lasted 6 months and ended as abruptly as it started, about her habit of asking why 17 times in a row until Daniel ran out of answers and had to resort to because that's how the universe works, kiddo. He told her about the hard parts too, the tantrums when Sophie got overwhelmed, the questions about her mother that came at bedtime when Daniel was least prepared to answer them, the fear that he was screwing it all up and wouldn't know until it was too late. Emily listened with the kind of attention that only another parent could give, not just hearing, but understanding, recognizing the weight beneath the words. When Daniel finally stopped, Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Lucas asked me last week if other kids have dads." Daniel's chest tightened. "Not whether he has a dad," Emily continued, "whether other kids do." like he couldn't quite imagine what that would look like because it's so far outside his experience. What did you say? The truth. That yes, lots of kids have dads, and that some kids have two moms, or two dads, or just one parent, or grandparents. Or she stopped. I basically listed every family configuration I could think of until he got bored and went back to playing with trucks. Sounds like you handled it perfectly. I made it up as I went along, Emily admitted. Same as I do with everything else. Welcome to parenting. She smiled. Is it always this terrifying? Only on days that end in Y. They talked about Lucas then. About his love of building elaborate block towers just to knock them down. About the way he narrated his entire life like a sports broadcaster. About how he'd recently discovered knock-knock jokes but didn't understand they were supposed to be funny, so he just made up nonsensical ones and laughed at his own randomness. Knock knock, Emily said. Who's there? Refrigerator. Refrigerator who? Refrigerator swimming pool. They both laughed, and it felt good. Easy. Like they'd known each other longer than an hour and a half. The barista approached their table with an apologetic smile. Hey, folks, we're closing in about 10 minutes. Daniel glanced at his phone. 9:40. They'd been here for nearly 3 hours. Sorry, he said. We'll get out of your way. Emily was already reaching for her purse, but she moved slowly, like she didn't really want to leave either. They walked out into the cool evening air. The street was quiet. A few cars passed. A couple walked by holding hands. Emily hugged her arms around herself. Well, that was not how I expected this evening to go. Same, Daniel said. But in a good way, in a very good way. They stood there on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to say goodbye. So, Emily said, full disclosure, I usually don't do second dates. Daniel's stomach dropped. Oh, not because I don't want to, she added quickly, but because once guys find out about Lucas, there usually isn't a second date to turn down. Right, but this feels different. Daniel looked at her. Really looked at her. At the hope and fear competing in her expression. It is different, he said. So, would you want to? She didn't finish the sentence, because the cafe door opened behind them, and a man stepped out. Daniel noticed Emily's whole body go rigid before he saw the man. Tall. Mid-30s. Expensive jacket. The kind of casual confidence that came from never having to question whether he belonged somewhere. He stopped when he saw Emily. Em? He said. Not quite surprised. More like satisfied. Thought that was you through the window. Emily's voice was ice. Jason. Daniel didn't need an introduction to know exactly who this was. Jason's eyes flicked to Daniel, sizing him up in a single dismissive glance before returning to Emily. Didn't know you were seeing someone, Jason said. Good for you. Moving on and all that. What do you want, Jason? Just grabbing coffee. Didn't expect to run into you. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Although I guess I should have known you'd be at the cheap place. Old habits. Emily's jaw tightened. Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. He recognized this kind of cruelty. The casual, conversational kind that slipped under your defenses before you realized you'd been cut. We were just leaving, Emily said. Sure. Jason made no move to go inside. How's Lucas? He's fine. Still asking about me? That's too bad. Jason's smile widened. Kid should know his father. But I guess you've got... He gestured vaguely at Daniel. This now, so that's good. Every boy needs a man around, even if it's not the right one. Daniel's hands curled into fists at his sides. Emily's voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the tremor beneath it. Jason, we're leaving. Have a good night. She turned to walk away. Jason called after her. Did you tell him? Emily stopped. Did you tell your date here that you come with baggage? Because that's only fair, Em. Guy should know what he's getting into. Emily turned back, and Daniel saw her face had gone pale. Because here's the thing, Jason continued, addressing Daniel directly now. Emily's great, really. But she's got a kid. And trust me, man to man, that complicates everything. Your time isn't your own. Your money isn't your own. And God forbid the kid doesn't like you. Because then you're just the guy trying to replace Daddy. And that never... Stop. Daniel's voice cut through the monologue. Jason paused. Excuse me? I said stop. Daniel took a step forward. Not aggressive. Just present. You're done talking. Jason's smile turned sharp. Oh, you're one of those, the white knight type. Let me guess you think you're going to save her. Be the hero who... She told me, Daniel said quietly. About Lucas. Before you showed up. So you can skip the whole fair warning act. Jason's expression flickered. Surprise, then annoyance. She told you she has a kid, and you're still here. He laughed. Give it a month. 2, tops. Once you realize what you signed up for, I have a daughter. That stopped Jason mid-sentence. I'm a single dad, Daniel continued. So everything you just said about time and money and complications? I already know. I live it every day. Jason's face hardened. Then you're stupider than you look. Taking on someone else's kid when you've already got your own? That's not noble. That's just asking for disaster. Maybe, Daniel said. But at least I'm asking. The words landed like a slap. Jason's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about me. I know you walked away from your son, Daniel said. That's all I need to know. For a moment, Daniel thought Jason might actually throw a punch. His whole body was tense, fists clenched, face red. But then, a woman appeared in the cafe doorway. Jason? She called. You getting coffee or what? Jason's anger deflated slightly. He glanced back at the woman mid-20s, blonde, oblivious, then back at Daniel and Emily. You two deserve each other, he said. Good luck with the whole broken family thing. He turned and walked back into the cafe without another word. The door closed behind him. Emily was shaking. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? She didn't answer right away, just stood there, breathing carefully, like she was afraid if she spoke she'd fall apart. Then she said, very quietly, I'm sorry. For what? For him. For that. For Emily. Daniel moved to face her. You have nothing to apologize for. He's Lucas's father, she said. That's always going to be part of my life, part of Lucas's life. And if you, I'm not going anywhere. Emily looked up at him, and her eyes were wet. You don't have to say that, she said. We just met. You don't owe me anything. I know, Daniel said. I'm not saying it because I owe you. I'm saying it because I want to. A tear slid down Emily's cheek. She wiped it away quickly. Why? She whispered. Daniel thought about Sophie. About the weight of doing it alone. About the fear that nobody would ever choose him again because he came with complications. About how Emily had sat across from him in that cafe and asked real questions, and laughed at his awkwardness and told him the truth, even though the truth could have ended everything. Because you chose to stay too, he said. When I told you about Sophie, you didn't run. You leaned in. And I'm returning the favor. Emily let out a shaky breath that was half laugh, half sob. We really are idiots, she said. Completely, Daniel agreed. They stood there on the sidewalk, two people who'd been broken by the ones who left, choosing to stay for each other. They didn't go back inside the cafe. Instead, they walked. No destination, just movement, putting distance between themselves and Jason's poison. Emily talked as they walked, about Lucas's father leaving, about the months of trying to hold everything together while falling apart, about learning to be enough for both of them even when she felt like she was failing at everything. Daniel listened, shared his own version of the same story. 2 different lives, same shape of loss. They ended up at a small park a few blocks away, empty at this hour. Just streetlights and the quiet rustle of trees. They sat on a bench. I don't usually fall apart like that, Emily said. You didn't fall apart, Daniel said. You just got ambushed by someone who didn't deserve the space he took up in your evening. Emily smiled slightly. I'm a nice guy. You are, aren't you? It wasn't a question. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Emily said, If we do this, actually do this, it's going to be complicated. I know. Lucas is my priority. Always. Sophie is mine. And if they don't get along, then we figure it out, Daniel said. Together. Emily turned to look at him. You're really sure about this? Because Jason was right about one thing. This is a lot. 2 single parents, 2 kids, all the baggage that comes with that. It would be easier to just, easier isn't always better, Daniel interrupted gently. And I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for real. Emily's eyes searched his face. What if I hurt you? What if I hurt you? Then we both survive it, Emily said. Because that's what we do, right? Survive. Daniel reached for her hand. She let him take it. I'd like to do more than survive, he said. If that's okay with you, Emily squeezed his hand. Yeah, me too. They sat there, hands linked, watching the empty park and the streetlights and the quiet night. So, Emily said eventually, second date? Definitely. Somewhere Lucas friendly? Daniel smiled. How about somewhere Sophie and Lucas friendly? Get the hard part over with early, Emily laughed. You're braver than I am, or more terrified of waiting. Also fair. They made plans. The Children's Museum. Saturday afternoon. Neutral territory where 2 kids could be kids and 2 parents could pretend they weren't desperately hoping their children liked each other. When they finally stood to leave, Emily hesitated. Thank you, she said. For tonight. For staying. For all of it. Thank you for telling me the truth, Daniel said. Even when it was scary, they hugged goodbye on the sidewalk. Daniel walked home thinking about Sophie, about how to explain this to her, about whether she was ready for this kind of change, about whether he was. His phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Made it home. Lucas is asleep. I'm going to lie awake all night, second-guessing everything. Daniel smiled and typed back, same. Except with Sophie. And probably more coffee. We're going to be exhausted on Saturday. Worth it. A pause. Then, yeah, worth it. When Daniel got home, Marcus was waiting on his porch. How'd it go? Marcus asked. Daniel unlocked the door. You really want to know? I set it up. Of course I want to know. They went inside. Daniel checked on Sophie still asleep, still peaceful, before joining Marcus in the kitchen. She has a kid, Daniel said. Marcus's eyes widened. Oh. Did she tell you before or after? During. And I told her about Sophie. And we're going to the Children's Museum on Saturday with both kids. Marcus stared at him. You had 1 date, I know. And you're already doing the family blend thing? I know. Are you insane? Daniel poured himself water. Drank it. Set the glass down carefully. Maybe, he said. But I'm tired of being careful, Marcus. Careful got me nowhere. Safe got me lonely. And tonight I met someone who understood what it's like to be broken and still show up anyway. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You really like her? Yeah, Daniel admitted. I really do. Even with all the complications, especially with all the complications, because she gets it. She's living it too. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Then I'm happy for you, man. Just take it slow, okay? For Sophie's sake. I will, Daniel promised. But as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he knew slow wasn't really an option anymore, because somewhere across town, Emily was lying awake too, and Lucas was sleeping soundly, and Sophie was dreaming whatever 7-year-olds dream about, and Saturday was coming whether they were ready or not. Daniel wasn't sure if this was brave or stupid, but he was sure it was real, and real was all he wanted anymore. Saturday arrived with unexpected sunshine. Daniel woke Sophie early and made her favorite breakfast chocolate chip pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, a skill he'd perfected over months of practice and YouTube tutorials. Why are we going to the museum? Sophie asked between bites. Because it's fun, Daniel said carefully, and because I want you to meet someone. Sophie looked up, syrup on her chin. Who? A friend of mine. Her name is Emily, and she has a son named Lucas who's 5. Sophie considered this with the seriousness only a 7-year-old could muster. Is Emily your girlfriend? Not yet, Daniel said honestly. Right now she's my friend, but I like her, and I think you might like her too. What if I don't? Daniel knelt to Sophie's level, meeting her eyes. Then we talk about it. You and me, and we figure it out together. Like we always do. Sophie nodded slowly, processing. Okay. She took another bite of pancake. But if Lucas is boring, can we still see the dinosaurs? Daniel smiled. Absolutely. They arrived at the museum 10 minutes early. Daniel's hands were sweating despite the cool morning air. He wiped them on his jeans for the 3rd time. Then he saw Emily and Lucas walking toward them from the parking lot. Lucas was small for 5, with his mother's dark hair and a bright green dinosaur t-shirt that immediately caught Sophie's attention. Nice shirt, Sophie said as they approached. Lucas looked at her shyly, half hiding behind his mother's leg. Thanks. I like dinosaurs. Me too, Sophie said matter-of-factly. Do you know what a pachycephalosaurus is? A what? Come on, I'll show you. And just like that, without waiting for permission from the adults, the 2 kids ran ahead toward the museum entrance, Sophie already explaining the finer points of thick-skulled herbivores. Emily and Daniel stood there in the parking lot, watching them go. Well, Emily said, exhaling slowly. That was easier than expected. Give it 5 minutes, Daniel said. One of them will definitely try to climb something they shouldn't. Smart money's on Lucas. I'll take that bet. They walked into the museum together, following the excited sound of children's laughter echoing through the halls. It wasn't perfect. Lucas got frustrated when Sophie knew more dinosaur names than he did. Sophie got possessive over the interactive displays. There was a brief, territorial dispute over who got to press the buttons first, but they worked it out. With Daniel and Emily gently mediating, with snacks and redirection and the promise of ice cream later, and when Lucas spontaneously grabbed Sophie's hand to pull her toward the fossil exhibit, and Sophie let him, Daniel and Emily exchanged a look. Hope. Terrifying. Beautiful hope. They got ice cream afterward. Sat at a picnic table outside while the kids compared flavors and debated whether chocolate or vanilla was superior. This is nice, Emily said quietly. It is, Daniel agreed. Scary. But nice. Definitely scary. Lucas was showing Sophie how to balance his spoon on his nose. Sophie was laughing. Emily leaned against Daniel's shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. For this, for trying. Thank you, Daniel said. For letting me. They sat there, 2 broken people learning to build something new. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was a beginning. Messy, complicated, real. And real was enough. A family doesn't begin with a perfect past. It begins when someone chooses to stay.